It is the Ruby type, hailing back all the way from the days of Meteorot 5. It is RBY00 Pigeon Blood, coming to the game with a kit of Gravity Guard, Destroy, Counter Guard, Flight Legs, and the Brilliance leg ability, which restores a small amount of HP to all parts when charging Metaforce. Now, as strangely scattered as Pigeon Blood's kit is, she does make it very clear that she is sporting a very aggressively defensive role when in battle. Gravity Guard is a defensive-based skill that will allow and force Pigeon Blood to tank any and all incoming blows, but any blows that are in particular of the gravity base, which includes press, break, or even break hammer, will be rendered null and void and no damage will be dealt. Destroy, of course, this is the melee variant. It is a gambling-based move that is guaranteed to destroy any part that is correctly targeted in its heat phase, in its cooldown phase, or if it's a shield that is currently active in play. So very aggressive in that sense, kind of tying back to what I mentioned earlier. And then, of course, Counter Guard, which is a 1 or 2, if it's fully capped out, move stance that does allow Pigeon Blood to counter any incoming melee-based attacks and revert and reflect the damage back to sender. So pretty much right from start, like I said, Pigeon Blood is a very aggressive defender more than anything else. If she's not protecting an ally, she's making it very clear that the opposing side is not allowed to use anything like a shield either. Plus, with Flight Legs, she does have very solid, honestly very fantastic stats across the board. 1222 and 1262 for her melee and for her shoot and her melee resist stats. Almost a little over 1900 for her evade, being she's going to be very hard to actually hit, and she's going to be grazing and dodging a lot of attacks very natively and very easily. And then, of course, a natural mobility of over 1000, which is very rare to see even in Flight Legs, which have one of the highest base mobilities in the game, which alone will put her on a very high priority list of someone to maybe pull for, primarily for the legs more than anything else. As a pure set score, I would unfortunately, however, have to rate Pigeon Blood a pretty solid 5.5 out of 10, primarily for the fact that for what she does it well, but she also is very gimmicky in what she offers. So it's very difficult to use Pigeon Blood feasibly as a pure set, unless you're an absolute god when it comes to timing. Gravity Guard, unfortunately, is probably going to be one of the least used skills on her kit, if any at all, primarily for the fact that even though it will nullify any gravity-based attacks, she still will be basically tanking every single hit to her face, which makes her a lot easier to kill when she's on the line, especially especially as long as you're not using any gravity-based parts, which is, again, press, break, or break hammer. Destroy, of course, can fit pretty feasibly, but it's also a very niche skill, even if it is a gambling move and a very destructive one, so using it can come with a lot of very difficult timing, which isn't necessarily the easiest to master. And while Counter Guard can be honestly very good for what it does, it only gives you 1 charge, 2 if you're capped at 5-star, before the shield expires and you have to reset it. Plus, because it is a defense-based skill, it does mean that she also is subject to the Destroy that she also wields, that may also end up crippling her faster than she can protect anybody. As mixed parts, however, I would rate her just a little higher at a 6 out of 10, primarily for the reasons that in the sense where if one of her parts can be used, I would better encourage to use her as mixed parts, in the sense of having Destroy, especially a melee variant no less, on female teams. And of course, the legs, I always will have to go back to those. They are very solid for what they offer, about 3000 HP overall, even if they don't have a heavy support at all, at a limit of 0. The Brilliance leg ability for that passive healing, and the high mobility at over 1000, and very high leg stats across the board will make them probably one of the highest sought after female Flight Legs in the game currently to date.